It's live reaction. You can ride torrent, apparently. Oh my god! Oh my god! You can ride torrent! This is not a glitch. They added this. This is a feature. You can now ride torrent versus the Elden Beast. Dude, this is gonna change everything. This is gonna change everything about how people do this fight, especially speedrunners. Look at this. Look at how it can dodge now. Look at how easy this is to dodge. Look! Look how easy it is. Oh, wait. Okay, well. Off. Okay, well, I didn't see that one. I was too busy looking at the top part of my screen, but I guarantee you could just jump that with torrent, but that's hilarious. Okay, let's get into the patch notes now. All right, guys, SYROBE here. Today we have the 1.12 pre-DLC release balance patch. Now, keep in mind, this does not include anything from the DLC. This is all just the base game of Elden Ring. And what we have right here is we have a bunch of quality of life features and a lot of PvP changes and PvE changes. And I'm going to go over them very briefly. Just a quick summary because it's like 3 in the morning right now and this patch just went live. Basically, there is an ability to see new items in your inventory. They showed that earlier. So now whenever you pick up something new, there'll be a giant like orange exclamation mark and it'll be highlighted. Recent items for things that you picked up. Some keyboard and mouse features that probably none of you care about because I'm one of the only people that plays on keyboard and mouse, I guess. Then there's PvP. So now I already read through this. PvP is kind of crazy. They're increasing poise damage of pretty much every weapon class or all of the big weapon classes. And then they're adjusting poise damage of dual wield attacks. So I think that means maybe they're nerfing poise damage of power stance attacks. And they're also increasing poise damage of power stance attacks from these weapons. The increased poise damage of axes is stronger, or poise damage of axes against other players is stronger. Excuse me. It's like 3 in the morning. Cut me a little slack here when it comes to reading. Decrease the poise damage of some attacks with the following weapon types. So these have been nerfed. All of these have been nerfed for their poise damage, and all of these have been buffed for their poise damage. So again, this is going to be massive for PvP changes. All of the breakpoints for armor sets are going to change, and how you have to min-max your poise is going to be completely different. We don't know what the values are right now, so that's going to take the PvP community quite a while, until they data mine everything and figure out the exact poise value. It's going to change everything, because it's not just the weapons that have more poise value, but some motion values are nerfed. So even though Greatswords got buffed and have more base poise damage with, right here, they have more base poise damage. It's only for some of their attacks, and other attacks, probably what I'm assuming is the crouch poke. I assume maybe the crouch poke is something that has less poise, and something like a regular, like, R1 or attack, like just a standard R1 attack probably has more poise. So it's probably trying to buff like regular R1 attacks and nerfing like crouch pokes and power stance attacks. And it seems like they're taking a huge hit to power stance attacks and power stance weapons. So all power stance builds are going to be a little bit less effective. And primarily, this is only for PvP. A lot of really weird Ash of War nerfs. Moonveil got nerfed. Less damage on Moonveil. They still hate Moonveil for some reason, which is, I think it's a little bit funny, because this is only for PvP. None of this is PvE. Okay. They also nerfed Black Flame's protection, so it's not as effective when you're in PvP, which gives you like a 30% critical buff. Or sorry, not critical. A 30% physical damage negation buff. I'm pretty sure that's what it was. And now it's less. We don't know exactly how less. Probably maybe like 5%, maybe 10% less. Just for PvP. Now, this is for everything. This affects PvE and PvP. From what I noticed, the biggest changes that I notice, all of these are kind of like minor changes. They're not like super big, like, oh my god, this is going to change the game. You probably won't notice most of these. I thought it was weird. They buffed Mohg's Great Rune, and they buffed Malenia's Great Rune for whatever reason. Increases the attack power of, this is going to be crossbow builds, bow builds, all ranged, like ranger builds are going to be buffed, which is kind of interesting. So now hopefully we get to see more cool bow builds in the DLC. But there's not a whole lot of things that are big here. But this is the biggest one. Okay. Decrease the effectiveness of terra magica and decrease the duration of the cerulean hidden tier. I tested it. The cerulean hidden tier, the one that goes in your physics flask, it's supposed to give you unlimited mana for 15 seconds. I tested it. It's only 10. They nerfed it by 5 seconds. This is a direct nerf to all Comet Azure builds. So if you are using a Comet Azure build, you're going to notice this. This seems like it's a direct, like, they do not want Comet Azure. This is only 10 seconds now. It used to be 15. And then this spell Sorry, wrong click. I used the wrong mouse. This spell is less effective. I think it was a 30% buff. Now it may be like 5% less because the tier was 5 seconds less. So this is probably going to be like a little nerf. Hopefully it's not too big. I'd say it's probably going to be like a 5% to 10% less effectiveness while standing in this zone now. And that's a direct nerf to Comet Azure because you always take the tier and Comet Azure and Terra Magica and then you just blast somebody. So they definitely did not want that build going untouched into the DLC. So hopefully if you have a Comet Azure tier, maybe you want to respec to Sword of Night and Flame, who knows. This one I thought was a bit weird. These next few changes for regular armaments, again, they nerfed Ripple Blade and Ripple Crescent Halberd. They nerfed the status buildup, which is, if you guys remember, a long time ago, I invented the whole Ripple Halberd sleep build that kind of broke PvP because you would put the sleep grease on the Ripple Crescent Halberd, and that has S tier arcane scaling. Now that's worse, specifically the status buildup. So if you put any sort of statuses on the Ripple Blade or the Ripple Crescent Halberd, which if I can show off here real quick, these ones have S tier arcane scaling. They serve pretty much no other purpose besides just being something that you can buff with arcane. Like, it has A. This is unupgraded and it's already an A tier. And then this other one, the Halberd, is as well, like, this goes up to an S tier. This starts at B, but at max rank it gets to an S tier. And I invented that little tech a while ago that you put sleep grease on it, or like any grease that has arcane buildup, like bleed or poison. It doesn't work with Scarlet Rot, but like bleed, poison, and sleep all increased by a lot when you put it specifically on the Ripple Crescent Halberd. Just because it scaled off arcane, it increased the scaling of those affinities. Now what we're seeing is that they're decreasing that. So this is going to be, again, this affects PvP as well, but also just base PvE. So this is for both. So that's kind of the only reason you would use the Ripple Blade anyways, or the Ripple Crescent Halberd. Direct nerf to one of my old builds. Long time ago, old build. I tested these, by the way. These are all very, like, minute. It doesn't look super big. It seems like it's maybe like a 5%, 10% difference from what I noticed. It doesn't look like these are too big of a change, just like a slight adjustment. It doesn't look too massive from what I noticed. Again, I could be wrong if we know the actual values once we're done data mining everything. But from just like testing and like leveling up my stats, I didn't really notice much of a difference with these. Again, these are all for PvP and PvE. I thought it was very, very interesting that they nerfed Glintblade Phalanx, because that was something that a lot of people used to really just shred people's poise damage, or sorry, shred bosses specifically for their poise values, because it did a lot of poise damage, and you would combine it with like anything else, like Wing of Vassal. You would just pop that, and Wing of Vassal just instantly stun lock bosses. I guess they're aware of that. We don't know how much the difference is right now, but if you were using Glintblade Phalanx, you're going to notice that it might be a little bit harder to get that stagger off or the poise break off. For whatever reason, I think another big one is the Spinning Slash. I thought a lot of people were doing like Blood Flame or Bleed Spinning Slash builds. They intentionally decrease the status buildup of your weapon when you use this skill. So if you were trying to do Spinning Slash to increase bleed procs, yeah, that got hit. One thing that I noticed that was really weird was parry got increase. I think this means that you have more parry frames. So now when you parry, it's easier to do a regular parry, and it's actually nerfed for buckler parry, because now you have a recovery time after you use this skill, which means buckler parry used to be like the best form of parrying, but now after you parry something, you have a recovery time before you can attack. At least if that's what that means, if it's not a translation error, you have a recovery time. And at Taker's Flame, I'm pretty sure this was the Blasphemous Blade. So this is a nerf to Blasphemous Blade. Remove the fire's knocking down of... Oh my god. That means you can't CC people anymore. You can't CC like Melania. I did that in my video. Oh my god. My most recent build video, I did that. I showed that in my most recent video that you can just chain stagger people. Hold on. I gotta show this video. I gotta show what I did with the Blasphemous Blade. Is that what Taker's Flame is? I think that's Taker's Flame. Oh my god. Big if true, though. That's crazy. Yeah, it is called Taker's Flame. So this is a direct nerf to the Blasphemous Blade build. And I made one of these. Like, look. You see how you can knock her down? You see how she gets knocked down? You can't do that anymore. You see how I'm doing this to her? I literally showed this in my video like 9 days ago. You cannot knock anyone down anymore. It's lost that effect completely. They did not like this, dude. They did not like this. Obviously, I'm not saying I invented this one, but just they did not like that you could just do this to Melania and other bosses. So rip to Blasphemous Blade users. That's going to be a huge nerf for Blasphemous Blade because that's also PvE and PvP. And this one's kind of lame too. They decreased my thunderstorm damage, dude. That was another one of my builds that I was doing. That was my quality build. You see this quality build that I had? Look, they decreased the poise damage of it, and they decrease the damage of it overall. This was such good damage too. Look at that damage. I did 7,000 damage, and you're telling me they nerfed that? Come on. They nerfed my Ash of War on that build. They nerfed the Taker's Flame on the other one. They're nerfing Bubble Shower now, so now the Doot build, the Horn build with the bubbles, has decreased damage and poise, so you can't just stagger chain bosses with it as well. It's still probably doable. We don't know the exact numbers right now, but just based on the other things, they also nerfed Jellyfish Shield. If you were using Jellyfish Shield in your build, that has been nerfed. So keep in mind, all of these nerfs going forward are for PvE and PvP, but just this section was PvE related. But overall, everything changes for PvP. And one of the other biggest nerfs that I noticed is that they nerfed the Moonlight Greatsword. So you don't stagger as fast with it. They didn't nerf the damage. They actually buffed the damage if you use the weapon. Like if you're using the weapon to bonk someone on the head, that's been buffed. But if you're using the Ash of War to just spam magic waves, like the little range attack, that was nerfed for its poise damage. Very interesting. I think those are the most important changes on this list. Lots of things are going to be way different for PvP. I think the biggest change for PvP is having a cooldown on sleep and madness effects, so you can't change that, as well as all of the poise breakpoints being completely reworked and changed. So now everybody's going to have to redo all of their builds and min-maxes and shit. But so far, that's pretty much it. That is the, again, base game patch. This does not include anything from the DLC or any new stuff. So I would take that with a grain of salt that, yes, there are a lot of nerfs, but we're also technically getting a lot of buffs by getting way more broken spells, way more broken items. It was kind of a given that they were going to nerf a lot of things. I already said that on my stream yesterday, that they were going to mostly focus on nerfs because it's kind of an incentive for you to use the new items. It's a weird way of doing it, but hopefully it pays off once the DLC goes live. Anyways, I'm going to go take a nap. I'm going to wake up and then stream the DLC as soon as I get my hands on it. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you all live in the Land of Shadow very, very soon. Peace.